So I just went to my first cardiothoracic surgery ever, and I saw a live beating heart. Tune in if you want to hear more about it. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Hafsa Slayman, and you're listening to Confessions of a Doctorholic, and I have the most amazing experience to share with you. So I went into my first ever cardiothoracic surgery. It was a triple coronary artery bypass with an aortic valve replacement. And let me tell you, I was so excited going in, but it's such a different vibe when you're in there. So first things first, I don't know why, I think this is a little bit weird, but when someone cracks a chest open, that's exciting. I know some of you out there might be like, oh my God, she's such a medical student. Yes, I am such a medical student. It was so exciting for me. The sternum was just split apart. The sternum and the rib cage was just split apart. And then they cut through the outer layer that encases the heart, so the pericardium. And there it is, the heart. It's just beating and beating and beating. And it's wild because it's not a simulation. It's not something that you've seen on YouTube. It's literally a live human heart beating right in front of your eyes. It's also kind of exhilarating, right? You see the right position, you see all of that. One of my biggest surprises, I reckon, was that it wasn't super bloody. Just in general, I know in surgeries, they usually cauterize so that basically means they get this device which burns and sticks the skin together or whatever it is that's bleeding. So they don't bleed as much. But I just kind of assumed that compared to all of the other surgeries, because it's involving the heart, it would be a completely different scenario. Anyway, so the doctor's explaining to us. So there's 3/4 parts to this surgery. Number one was they were harvesting the greater saphenous vein. So that's literally the vein in your leg. So they had to remove that because that's what they were going to use to bypass the coronary vessels. And then the second surgery, or according to what the doctor was saying, was they chucked in a catheter inside the aorta, and they were trying to bypass the blood. So you don't want the patient to lose blood, but you also need to stop the heart from beating. And you also don't want the rest of the body to die. So you basically have to provide the body with blood without it being from the heart. So there was this other machine outside, the bypass machine, and it was so cool. And the doctor was to me, okay, so can you notice any differences in the blood? And honestly, it was so little. And apparently that little darkness is the difference between having blood that's not oxygenated versus blood that has a ton of oxygen in it. Wild. Wild, wild, wild. It was so cool. And then they had to stop the heart from beating so that they could sew the vessels on. And they literally stopped it. I'm looking at the vitals because they're looking at the vitals to check, and the heart rate was about 90, and then they dropped it down until it flatlined, and it was wild. In my head, I'm just oh my God, this is not a good time. But in this case, even the monitors and stuff, it wasn't going off because you basically chuck it into the system that this is a bypass surgery. So this is normal. And then they cut the vein into 3 bits. They bypassed 3 coronary arteries. They attach it to the aorta as well. And then they cut the aorta in half. Literally, I was oh my God, this is so scary. I mean, I've seen a sheep's heart, but obviously it's not the same as a live human being under general anesthesia in front of you, it's a completely different experience. So they cut right through the aorta. And for those of you who don't know what an aorta is, it's basically the massive blood vessel that takes the blood from your heart to the rest of the body. Like that's literally like the first massive vessel. So they cut right through it and they remove the valve that's there. So there's a valve there so that you could get blood in different compartments in the heart. And basically, as like the last stage, I guess, of the heart beating is to get a heap of pressure and push all that blood out to the rest of the body. So they just removed, like the doctor's like to me, oh, can you see how stenotic it is? Yeah, and then he just removes that, and then they start testing different valves. And they put in a bovine valve, so like basically one that's been harvested from a cow. Phenomenal. It was also beautiful. He was like, okay, so I'm gonna start with putting all the threads in, so the sutures in, and then he started suturing it on the valve. There were so many. It was like a kind of like a cute design around the entire valve. And then he fitted it in the heart. And then obviously he closed everything up. And then the final step, which was also something that I was like, wow, this is so cool. They put in wires into the rib cage because the rib cage is wide open and they had a retractor on earlier to keep it apart so it wouldn't like impede them during the surgery, or like it would be like far enough apart that they can put their hands in. So towards the end, obviously, a good surgeon has to put everything back together the way it came, or at least as close to how it came as possible. So they got wires in, like proper wires. Like, I'm just trying to think what has a wire in it. Like everything has wires in it, but like think of like, I don't know, like just something that has a really strong wire in it. My brain is farting at the moment, so I can't think about that. I've been standing in surgery for ages, so obviously I'm a little bit delusional. My legs hurt so much, but yeah, they put this wire in and then they started, like they put it in on both sides of the rib cage, and there were about 8 of them for every rib. And then he pulls and twists, and then pulls it a little bit more. And wow, like you can tell that it took so much effort to do that. Now, this surgery was 7 hours long. I was standing for 7 hours long. Nothing in my life has prepared me for standing for 7 hours long. So in the middle of the surgery, I kid you not, like I couldn't do squats. My knee was aching, but this was way too entertaining to worry about my knee. So I was just doing little leg circles and it seemed to work. And I was jiggling my legs a little bit, kind of like a little dance, just to get some like blood pumping. The last thing I wanted was to pass out on top of the patient. The anesthesiologist was absolutely lovely. So the anesthesiologist, the surgeon, and some of the nurses, they got me a little pedestal because I'm a little girl. I'm 6'4". No, I'm not 6'4". I'm 5'4", sorry. I was literally like, wow, I made myself sound so tall. I am 163 centimeters. Yes, that's probably why I should not be using feet, but I'm 163 centimeters. So it's very hard to see things in surgery. So they got me this little pedestal, which I was so grateful for. And I was standing on top of that. And they kept it behind like where the anesthesiologist usually is. And the doctor was like to me, can you see this? Can you see that? He was quizzing us. It was phenomenal. But obviously, me being me, I can't go into a surgery without something happening to me. So I stumbled a little bit. I think I touched the screen. I kind of like blocked that from my memory, and I'm talking to you about it right now because I was so terrified. I was terrified that I'd land on the patient. I was terrified that I'd like disturb the field. I don't know. I was terrified by everything. I was so scared. The doctor laughed. I mean, he thought it was entertaining. Dare I say, kind of cute that I stumbled. But yeah, no dramas happened. I did fall on top of the patient, thank Christ. And the sterilized field is still sterile, so all good. But yeah, it just made me feel amazing. I reckon if any of you are having trouble studying, which is my current situation, by the way, definitely go into a surgery because it humbles you and it kind of makes you want to study. Anyway, what do you think? Have you had an amazing surgical experience? Share it with me. I'm keen to hear more. And have a good one.